What kind of a diabolical mind would contemplate or conceive these 7 murders?
Welcome to MsMojo. Today we're counting down our picks for the most famous and influential criminal trials throughout human history.
The horrors and crimes of the Nazis were put on display for all the world to see.
Number 10, Lyle and Eric Menendez.
We're gonna do this. 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 Okay, let's go do this right now.
One of the most infamous and widely debated legal cases in American history began on the night of August 20th, 1989, when Lyle and Eric Menendez murdered their parents Jose and Kitty. The trial began in 1993 and created a media frenzy due in large part to the scandalous crime and the moral ambiguity that generated endless discussion.
What do you believe was the originating cause of you and your brother ultimately winding up shooting your parents?
Some believe the brothers' allegations, arguing that society often dismisses male victims of sexual abuse. Others saw their claims as fabricated, having conveniently surfaced after their arrest. It also highlighted challenges in balancing claims of trauma with the standards for justifiable homicide. As such, the Menendez trial was emblematic of the justice system's complexities, and it was a tantalizing drama to follow for multiple years.
How old were you when you heard things like, "I wish you were never born"?
Seven.
Number 9, Joan of Arc.
You must take the oath. Not even a king would refuse to take an oath to tell the truth in a matter of faith.
I will tell you all that I'm allowed to tell you.
A young peasant woman from Domremy, Joan of Arc claimed to have divine visions instructing her to lead France to victory against the English during the 100 Years' War. Unfortunately, she was captured by the Burgundians and put on trial, facing accusations of heresy, witchcraft, and even cross-dressing for dressing in male military attire. Her trial lasted several months, involving intense interrogations and theological scrutiny. She was ultimately found guilty of heresy.
I ask only one thing. Please, hear my confession.
I can't, Joan. I can't hear your confession. Very sorry.
On May 30th, 1431, she was famously burned at the stake. With strong religious connotations, interesting political dynamics, and revolutionary examinations of gender roles, Joan's martyrdom transformed her into a symbol of French nationalism. Nearly 500 years after her death, Joan was canonized and made a patron saint of France.
I was proud and stubborn.
Number 8, Leopold and Loeb.
It becomes a national sensation. Every aspect of this crime is looked at.
A lot of the newspapers called on phrenologists to study their facial features and the shapes of their heads to see if there was any clues.
Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb kidnapped and murdered teenager Bobby Franks on May 21st, 1924. They hoped that by getting away with it, they would become master criminals. However, they were quickly caught and confessed just 10 days later. As this was deemed the crime of the century, the Leopold and Loeb trial was highly publicized, their defense led by the famous attorney Clarence Darrow. As they had already pleaded guilty, the trial was more of a sentencing hearing, with Darrow staunchly arguing against the death penalty in favor of life imprisonment. Running for 32 days, the famous trial concluded with an 8-hour speech performed by Darrow, in which he passionately criticized the practice of capital punishment. Both men were ultimately sentenced to life.
His brilliance was, if I have them plead guilty, we go right to our sentencing hearing. And then it all depends on one judge.
Number 7, the Rodney King beating trial.
Every day, regular folks from the public file in to watch the trial. And you can too, if you can beat the rush.
On the morning of March 3rd, 1991, Rodney King was famously beaten by a number of Los Angeles police officers following a brief car chase. This beating was famously captured on video by salesman George Holliday, and it spread through the news in the days that followed. 4 officers were charged and put on trial, and said trial became a hot-button topic in the spring of 1992. The case famously brought together numerous contentious issues under one umbrella, most importantly those of race relations and police brutality.
Americans, we African Americans, we had evidence of our claims of, injustice and mistreatment.
The officers were ultimately acquitted, resulting in the famous riots that engulfed Los Angeles for the next 6 days. 63 people were killed, over 2,000 were injured, and approximately $1 billion in destruction was caused.
Okay, there's now been a tactical alert for this area.
Number 6, Socrates.
Socrates. The only true wisdom consists in knowing that you know nothing.
That's us, dude!
The trial of Socrates in 399 BCE is not only one of the most famous criminal trials in history, it's one of the most pivotal moments in Western philosophy. Socrates encouraged critical thinking, and his perceived opposition to democratic ideals made him a convenient scapegoat for the Athenian anxiety of the time. As such, he was charged with both impiety and corrupting the youth. Socrates remained steadfast in his principles and openly challenged his charges. When he was found guilty, he famously asked to be rewarded with free meals for life, as he believed that his philosophical work had greatly benefited the city. Socrates ultimately denied exile in favor of death, in the process becoming a martyr for philosophy and the freedom of thought.
Poison hemlock? Isn't that what Socrates died from?
Forensics says the stuff grows wild, not just in ancient Greece. Paralyzes the muscles and finally the lungs.
Number 5, the Manson family.
Well, I got a message from Sadie, and she told me that the district attorney made her say what she said.
That's too nonsensical for us to respond to, Your Honor.
The counterculture or hippie era arguably died with Sharon Tate. Of course, Tate was just one of 7 victims, but she was by far the most famous, and her heinous murder made headlines around the world. The resulting trial was a circus. The Manson family's motive was unclear, leading prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi to craft his still contentious helter-skelter theory.
To Manson, helter-skelter meant the black man rising up and destroying the entire white race. That is, with the exception of Charles Manson and his chosen followers.
Meanwhile, Manson and his followers were irritatingly brazen, often laughing in the courtroom and famously carving X's into their own foreheads. The trial was a mirror reflecting the societal turmoil of the late 1960s, representing disillusioned youth, countercultural ideals, and violent rebellion. It also greatly blurred the line between justice and entertainment, with the spectacle often overshadowing the legal proceedings.
Did you expect this verdict?
The revolution.
What do you mean by a revolution?
A bloody revolution.
Number 4, the Nuremberg trials.
But the Nuremberg trials were an important step towards rebuilding an international system of justice. They established important legal precedents for future international trials.
By November 1945, World War II was finally over, and it was time for Nazi Germany to pay for their crimes. Named after the German city in which they were hosted, the Nuremberg trials ran from November 1945 to October 1946, with 24 defendants taking the stand, including Hitler's designated successor, Hermann Goering. The trials introduced several legal precedents, most notably the classification of crimes against humanity, which was used to prosecute systemic atrocities in subsequent decades.
There's a common responsibility for the crimes that were committed in the name of the Third Reich. No one is blameless, apart from the victims.
And despite being a deeply symbolic reckoning of the Nazi regime, showcasing a common humanitarian goal of doling out justice, the trials were also deeply controversial, raising both ethical and legal concerns. In the end, 11 of the 24 defendants were sentenced to death.
Defendant Hermann Goering. The tribunal finds you guilty on all 4 counts and sentences you to death by hanging.
Number 3, the Salem witch trials.
Will you confess yourself befouled with hell? Or do you keep that black allegiance yet? What say you?
Between February 1692 and May 1693, colonial Massachusetts was ravaged by paranoia. The result was one of the most controversial events in American history. More than 200 people were accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials, with the accused often representing marginalized members of the community. The prosecution relied heavily on spectral evidence, in which the court gave serious credence to the concepts of visions and spirits.
I'm not hurting her!
Why does she see you up there?
She sees nothing! She sees nothing!
Have you compacted with the devil?
Never! Never!
The bogus trials were considered unlawful as early as 1702, just 9 years after they concluded. But it was too late for the 25 individuals who died, either by execution, torment, or unsanitary jail conditions. It was a complex interplay of mass hysteria and societal pressures, a warning against the unchecked aggression of fear and prejudice.
Have you made compact with the devil to destroy this investigation?
And hold to the truth!
What brought this change in you? You have made compact with the devil, have you not?
Number 2, Bruno Hauptmann.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Bruno Richard Hauptmann, guilty of murder in the first degree.
American journalist H.L. Mencken famously called it the biggest story since the resurrection. The media called it the crime of the century. It caused Congress to pass the Federal Kidnapping Act. The case, of course, is the Lindbergh kidnapping, in which young Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr. was abducted from his home and murdered. The crime of the century gave rise to the trial of the century, with a German carpenter named Bruno Hauptmann being blamed for the murder. It was a media circus, with the prosecution relying heavily on circumstantial evidence to build its case. And while Hauptmann was found guilty and executed, this outcome remains highly controversial, with both the evidence and legal case against him being deeply flawed.
Charles Lindbergh was leading the investigation and telling the state police what they could or could not do. He had the baby cremated and put out an order that none of the evidence would ever undergo further scientific investigations.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. O.J. Simpson.
It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
It's hard to conceptualize just how big the O.J. Simpson trial was for people who weren't there. This thing was massive, perhaps the cultural event of our time. Many TV stations stopped what they were airing to show the famous Bronco chase.
I'm going to have to interrupt this call. I understand we're going to go to a live picture in Los Angeles. Is that correct? Okay. This is Interstate 5, and this is courtesy of KCALR, one of our LA affiliates. Police believe that O.J. Simpson is in that car.
The trial was extensively studied and analyzed in the media day in and day out. An estimated 150 million people watched the verdict live, making it one of the most watched television broadcasts in history. Many iconic cultural moments were created from the trial, including the famous glove incident. And of course, the controversial not guilty verdict put an infamous end to an already famous trial. There's simply no other trial like this one.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187.
Can you think of any other examples? Let us know in the comments below.
Speak, man, we cannot relent! What say you, Corey? More. Wait!
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.